very flexible. Put it that way. I'm flexible teaching wise, not if you want me to like stretch. That doesn't work. I'm about as flexible as a tree. So, yeah. Any other questions for me? You guys all get your comp stuff up and running, done, submitted back. Make sure you get that submitted. What's the deadline? Tomorrow, I think. So, get
Isn't
those.
it Friday?
Friday. Yes, Friday 5.
You guys are on top of it. Uh, I'm not. So there you go. Yeah, Friday at 5. Get it completed and then celebrate. There you go. So, um, yeah. So I guess let's get started talking about financial statements. Did you guys all take a look at the article I posted for you in Teams?
Yeah.
Talk about J Lo and A Rod. Okay. I figured who doesn't like bashing A Rod, and I mean, that's always fun. So we'll do that. All right. So let's talk a little bit about overall some financial statements and some budgeting. So your personal budgets. How many of y'all actually have a budget?
I do.
One.
I keep one in my head.
That's could be a good place for it, but if your head's anything like mine, it's not a good storage spot.
I one.
You have one or no?
No.
No? Okay. That could be problematic. Um, so let's think through budgeting a little bit. And by the time we're done with this, I hope that you guys develop budgets and use a budget in some capacity that's not just in your head. Personally, I don't. Doesn't sound bad. I don't keep track of our family's budget. That's my wife. Um, she just tells me what I can and can't spend, which always works. Sometimes I get mad, but it's okay. So we think some money management. First of all, you got to have money to pay your day-to-day financial activities. If you like going to Starbucks, you need money to pay for Starbucks. If you like whatever you want to do in your daily thing. So you need to make sure you have funds for that, but also you can't just spend all your money because you still have to plan for long-term financial security in the future. And that's one of the hardest things that people struggle with because I don't know, how many of y'all, when you get a paycheck or get something, it tends to just disappear? Does that happen to you guys?
No, I put it into my savings normally.
Okay. Anybody else? Okay. So what tends to happen, and I don't know if you've ever noticed it or observed it, but one of the unique things to do is go take a look. And this was big in New Mexico when I was out there. Grocery stores, Walmart, all these places. My wife and I would go to the store on Friday to get some cookies and dinner or whatever. And at the front of the stores, people bring their checks in to cash them. So there are a lot of people who do not have bank accounts. It's weird to think that way, but there's a lot of people who don't have a bank account. And even if you think now, why would it be wise to have a bank account right now?
It's safer and you can get interest.
So saving and get interest, yeah, but also, I don't know if y'all received your stimulus checks yet from the government, but if you have a bank account and have direct deposit, you can potentially get your money faster than a paper check. So that was one of the things they're advising people right after it passed, and they said if you don't have a bank account, go get one set up. A lot of them are free checking accounts, free savings. Doing that, banks like having your money in, but there are still people who don't have that on Friday when they get paid from work every Friday. They take their paycheck. and they go to the grocery store, they go to the check cashing spot, or they go somewhere and get their check cashed, and they get money given to them. And that money, if they need to save money, their safe deposit box is under the mattress. Or if anyone's watched National Lampoon's Vegas Vacation from back in the day, where was the uncle or the uncle who stored his money out in the yard and had it in cans buried around his yard? I mean, that's a bank account. So, but thinking through, how do I help with that? And bank accounts actually can help you manage your money a little bit. So, develop a personal finance record system overall. Something that this is something that you should do to help keep track of all the funds that come in and leave, right? Handling daily business activities. Bank accounts work great. Debit cards work great. It's a great way to handle that back. I still remember when I was a kid, all 20 years ago, that my mom, when we go to the store, she would pay, we go to Publix and get groceries, and she would write a check to him. And would take her checkbook and would actually in there would write how much she spent, would clear it, and would do various things to, actually managing a checkbook. In elementary school, we had to go to a place in middle school where you learn how to manage a checkbook and write a check. I know people today who don't know how to write a check. If I handed you a check, and these are professional athletes, coaches, they go, "What do I do with this?" I'm like, "Give it to me. I write my name on it. I cash it in my own. Thanks." So there's different ways. Don't do that. That's not legal. But they don't know what they're doing and how to cash that check. So there's different ways to go through it. Someone always does it for them. Completing required tax reports. We had Abby's dad talk to us from the IRS. There's a lot of tax implications of what you're doing. Making effective investment decisions. Idle cash does you no good. Businesses do not like having cash just sitting around, right? If a business has an extra $20 million sitting there right now, they probably would like having some cash to be liquid so they can do stuff. But in normal flow of operations, businesses don't like having a lot of actual cash on hand because cash sitting there doesn't do anything for you. Cash sitting can actually go make money if I put it into a short-term security system, some type of mortgage, some type of other loan investment opportunities where I can take my 10 million I put in and grow it to 12 million just by doing nothing, watching your money grow. That's something important to have. And then determine available resources for current and future spending. Bank accounts work great. Keeping it in your head, say it again, not the best route to go, but it's there. And when we looked at businesses and we have multiple components that go with this, but you have the balance sheet. If there's one of the three components of financial statements, your personal balance sheet is what's there. Items of value, your liquid assets, usually cash, other things that can be turned to cash very quickly that you might have, stuff you could sell. If you own a house, I mean, there's a lot of stuff inside that, electronics, TVs, those type of equipments can go. Real estate will probably be the biggest investment most of you guys make in your lives. Buying a house is usually one of the biggest investments most people make. And then personal possessions. So it could be cars, it could be other things that you have in your possession. And then investment assets. When you get to a business, I tasked my undergrad class with thinking about the retirement and thinking about their future. And they had to actually go research a job and look at the benefits that come with it and what type of retirement planning is there. But there's those investments come into you. I had a call with my financial advisor yesterday. And I asked him some questions and said, "Hey, where do we sit with this? What type of investment tools do I have?" and my assets that are in a good spot even right now to still work out. Then you have to think about what amounts are owed. So your current liabilities, those that are due within a year, what's going to come fully due. Depends on short-term stuff, so it might be credit card that you might have or other liabilities that you could be putting out. Long-term liabilities, that's your mortgage, those are car loans, not coming due in 1 year. Different things to look at. And then your overall net worth is your assets minus your liabilities is your net worth. And a little precursor, the J-Lo or they called it J-Rod, is what the New York Post was calling them, which I kind of humoring. Said that their net worth was $700 million. So that means all their assets together minus their liabilities equal $700 million. I don't want to say I'm kind of jealous, but it's just me. So, and when you think, the other one, your statement of cash flows. So all this stuff is applied to you individually, your total cash received minus your cash outflow every month. If you calculate this and you're sitting there with a negative number, that's not good. You might want to reevaluate it. I've done this before, and my wife and I have been in situations where it's like, holy crap, all we have is $25 extra a month after all of our expenses are titled, and we're like, ooh, 59-cent box of pasta from Walmart. That looks good for dinner. So thinking through that, because then you can know, maybe I should do this. Maybe this doesn't happen. Thinking through that. Also, what are your fixed and variable expenses that come with that? Your mortgage, your car loan, those are pretty fixed that are set to it. Variable, your electricity bill at your house. I watch that every month as it comes in. And over the summer, that could shoot up to $80, $90. Over the winter, it could go down to 40. So variable expenses. I'll tell you, as you get going in life and separate from school, maybe you've already encountered this at some point, you really learn the true value of a dollar and what a dollar is. I remember in college, to me, the cash flows, I had student loans that came in. I knew that in this beginning of the semester I was going to get X amount. I got paid this. Great. I didn't really know. I always knew there was money there. When you're getting paid and you don't have loans and money coming in and funny money that's occurring from places, you have to figure out that value of a dollar and how much that is. And then those stories of people say, well, yeah, if I had like $2 in my bank account and had to stretch this through and make this work for 2 weeks, yeah, you really do figure out, how do I make this happen? So then it comes to setting a budget. And first is thinking about those financial goals. How many of y'all are goal setters? Have goals, plan goals?
I have goals, but I don't know if I don't have money goals right now in my life.
Yeah, money either. I mean, I just have one, but not really specifically.
Okay. How many of y'all have a 5-year plan of where you want to be in your life? 5, 10-year plans.
I haven't wrote it out, but it's definitely in my head.
Okay. Who else?
Yeah, same. I kind of know what I want.
Okay. So I guess my challenge to you guys, and Dr. McGlone even did this to me in the fall. I went to her and had a discussion about, hey, where do I want to be? What I want to do? And she goes, you know what? She goes, when was the last time you wrote down your goals? Wrote down what you wanted. What's your 5-year plan? What's your 10-year plan? And I said the same thing. I know where I want to be. It's in my head. Like, I know where I'm supposed to be. And she goes, I want you to go think hard about what you want to do, where you want to be, how you want to get there. She goes, write that 5, 10-year plan down, then come back and talk to me. I want you guys to do that. And don't just keep it in your head, but actually write it down, write it somewhere. And my former boss of the Chicago Bears, um, he is a fantastic boss. I would go back and work for him in a heartbeat. But when he got the job with the Bears, um, he's an anomaly in the NFL. He is uh, one of the few black equipment managers in the NFL. And beyond that, if you saw him, you wouldn't think that he could sit there and dictate to players what to do. He's big, 6'7", 300-pound offensive lineman, and all these people. He's 4'10" or 4'11" on a good day. Little dude, but everybody loves him and gets along with him. So, but what he wrote as far as his goals, he wrote down that he wanted to make a difference in everything he did and become one of the first black equipment managers in the NFL. He wrote that down when he started 20 something years ago, 30 years ago. And he keeps it in a box, his lockbox that's in his office, his goals when he looks at them. That's something that I want you guys to do is think about those goals of where do I want to be 5, 10 years. And don't just keep it in your head, but literally write it down of what you want to accomplish and where you want to be. Because that's something that you can reflect back on. That's something that's there. Write it on your phone, save it as your background on your phone. So every time you open your phone, you see what you're working towards. It's something I know there's a lot of athletes that are in here. How many times does your team give you a written sheet of paper with your season goals on it? Or I've walked in so many facilities where the goals are written on the wall that everybody sees, right? And you can walk by and they hit it. If you think Notre Dame, the sign that they hit before they go on the field, play like a champion today. That could be a goal, and they all see that. So it visually reinforces what you're trying to do. The same thing with budgeting and financial planning goals. If you write down that you want to buy a house in 5 years, well, those you need to plan out and understand, hey, this is what I'm doing. Here's my goal. Here's what I have to get to. That might require me saving $10,000, $20,000. And at this time, when you're going to make a lot of money, you might go, that's going to be hard, right? How am I going to get there? But when you start developing a plan or something I think there's different ways to do it. So get that budget goal set up. And I am an advocate of SMART goals. Specific, measurable, I don't forget what the A is.
Attainable.
Attainable. Thank you for chiming in there. Realistic and timely. So, I mean, I'm going to be a multimillionaire in 2 years. Yeah, probably not. Unless something really happens. If that's the case, peace out. See you later, Coastal. But think through how am I going to achieve those goals? Is buy a house in 5 years. Here's what I need to do. Measure that time. Every month I need to save X amount of money. Different goals that you can hit. It's the same system that if you want to, if you're an athlete trying to get to a point and I need to get stronger. Well, how am I going to do that? Here's my plan of how I'm going to work in the weight room. Here's this guide of how this is going to happen. Right? Estimating your income. Get a job. I mean, you can really get an estimate of how much money you can make doing a job just by looking around the market. Right? I'll never forget when I asked my event management class, I think in my first year here, I said, well, how much money you guys think you're going to make when you go out in the industry? And they said, $60,000 right out of school as an undergrad. I go, huh? He's like, I'm from Maryland. We make more money up there. I go, no, you're not. But, be realistic in those estimates of your income and get a great understanding of it. And then try and budget those variable expenses too to the best that you can, right? Understand where you're at. If it's your electricity bill, fit that in. Watch out for your cable and streaming service stuff. There's a lot of different aspects to look at there. And then here's your budgeting systems. There's a lot of ways to do it. Most of you fall in that first category of a mental budget. There's only so much bandwidth that your brain can handle. I firmly believe that, and I know that to be true. I'm not just saying this because my wife is in the room with me here, but I don't remember everything that I talk about most places. Right? My brain is wrapped up in my work, my research, and then I try and remember other things with the family and what's going on. That I tend to forget stuff, right? So I don't always remember that. So the mental budget is great to have shorthand, knowing what you're doing, but not the best place really to keep your thing. A physical budget. This is what is his name? What's the character from National Lampoons? Cousin Eddie. That's what his name is. Cousin Eddie with his money buried in the desert and coffee cans. That's a physical budget where you come home and you cash your check every week, and you have this envelope, this folder. This one's for the house fund. This one's for this. This one's for this. You put $20 in each. The problem I see in that is, if something happens, you misplace it, it gets stolen. There goes your whole entire budget, right? A little bit different. I advocate a written budget. Keep it in a notebook. Really, the computerized budgeting system, use Microsoft Excel. Microsoft Excel has different budgeting templates that are fantastic. When you click Excel, just start new worksheet from template, and there's various templates right there, formulas built in that you can put everything in and then copy and paste it to the next month or to the next year, what you want to do. But there's also newer features, online budgeting, mint.com, and then there's budgeting apps. And the great thing about this is a lot of these apps will tie into your bank account. So as you spend money, you can set up every month how much you want to spend in each category. If you want to spend X amount for groceries, you want to spend X amount on entertainment. And when you make those purchases, the app automatically recognizes where you made a purchase at. So if you go to Starbucks, it'll make that as food. If you make a purchase at Albertsons or Food Lion or Smith's or wherever, Kroger, it's going to recognize as grocery. So you can set up different categories. Then you can truly track, hey, I've spent this much there. And again, my undergrad students last semester, when I had them do this, one girl goes, wow, I spent $260 a month at Starbucks. I go, you might have a problem. But she then quickly realized that I can't do that. And when she came into class with a Starbucks cup, I go, is that part of your budget? She goes, no, but I needed it today. So, but at least it's being aware of what you're doing. And these apps are great assets for people that you can live track your spending of what's there. A lot of banks actually can recommend which ones they might have a better relationship with. But it's a great tool to use. And I highly recommend that to help with your overall budgeting exercise and expertise, because it's only going to help you do that. Any questions for me on budgeting, apps, technology, what not to do? We're good. Everyone's going to build a budget. Perfect. All right. So let's talk a little bit about that article. What did you guys think of that?
I thought it was interesting. I wasn't real sure what went down with Steve Cohen, so I went back and read some articles about that, and thought it was pretty interesting that the current owners wanted to keep running the team.
So they wanted to keep running the team, but they wanted someone to buy it off of them?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's not how business works.
Where was the article?
It was in the, if you go on the team on Teams, it should be right in there. So a little gist of it, that's J-Lo and A-Rod. I think a lot of it's to try and piss off Derek Jeter because A-Rod's continually trying to compete with Derek Jeter. Ever since they've been in New York, which one's better, and they came at the same time, and Jeter's seen as Captain America, can do no wrong. A-Rod had a little issue with steroids that nobody wants to talk about, uh, but he did. And he, I think, is trying to follow this and living. If you have the money and you can buy a sports franchise, why not, right? So I think that's where it gets really intriguing, especially when he saw what Derek Jeter did. Which did that article? I read a couple articles. Did that article talk about how much Jeter spent to be an owner of the Marlins?
I might have briefly mentioned it.
So he spent. The Marlins were purchased for, I believe, 1.3 billion. Derek Jeter spent $25 million, and he essentially has a 4% ownership stake in the company. So what that equates to is if they sell, let's say they sell the Marlins in 10 years for $3 billion, Jeter gets 4% of that, 4% of the net profits of that sale. Good, but also he's got a lot of power, and it was trying to put into a place where that ownership group can do it. Very rarely what you see now with buying and owners buying teams is the days where it's one person coming in and buying the whole team and saying, "Don't worry, guys, I got it." Uh, that's not really how it works anymore. What I found interesting about the article was that one, A-Rod and J-Lo are actively trying to buy the team, and they tried to sell it earlier, and as mentioned, it blew up in their face. But in that purchase, it gets a little intriguing because they went and got a bank to essentially guarantee that the money was there. Right? So if you want to go buy a house, you got to have some sort of assurances that the money's there. I mean, wouldn't you want assurances if you were trying to sell your company for $2.2 billion that maybe they have the money? I mean, so if you think about this in the grand scheme of things, they're trying to do this, and this is you will see a big if you think back a couple weeks, we talked about teams and valuation and how it works out. If you're the owner of the Mets, why do you want to sell a team right now?
Well, they're valued for about $1 billion less than they were in February.
So, but let's be realistic. If you hold on to the team for another year, couldn't you probably get close to $3 million?
Potentially, depending on what happens with the pandemic and the rest of the baseball season.
Okay, so that's kind of what they're looking at, because Major League Baseball operates in a totally different landscape than the NFL. So every major league club, any money they make stays with them, and it's not as much of a collective bargaining revenue split that occurs in football, where all the money goes to the big house and then they separate it out equally. Major League Baseball has some revenue sharing where each team pays in, I believe it's like 30% of their revenue for revenue sharing, and then they get back based off of market size and where they're at. Some teams get larger. Some Tampa Bay gets a larger share than the Yankees and the Dodgers. So there's just a varying revenue split that occurs. So it's more equitable. It's not equal. So the Mets, and this is one of the first rules of finance: don't overspend and buy low and sell high. In the times of sports franchises, the opportunity right now to buy low comes at $1 billion, or 2.2 can go in for 1.2. If you can get the Mets, and I'm not sure where the New York media market ranks, it's either 1 or 2 in the U.S., and the Mets have a huge crowd even though they suck. There's no Mets fans in here, right? Hope not. Good. Mets are absolutely awful, but they have success potential. And then you bring in Jennifer Lopez, who is Jenny from the block and has New York as her side, even though she's from the Bronx. She can bring in talent, and what they said in the article is turning Citi Field into an outdoor Madison Square Garden. So when the weather's nice in New York, they want to pack it out and have 35,000 people out there for a concert at the stadium. So when the team's not there, because not only are you buying the club, you're also buying the stadium. So when you have baseball in there for 82 games out of the season, now I can have a whole lot of other stuff throughout the summer. If they're on the road for a week, hey, I can have 2 or 3 concerts in here potentially if people can come in. And now I'm making more and more money. So that's what they're seeing as this potential to capitalize on it. But the thing with J-Lo and A-Rod at $700 million in net worth, do you want to spend all that money? Do you want to spend all your assets right now?
No.
And that's, yeah. So that 700 million net worth, that a lot could be tied up in houses, and the house is probably not liquid cash that they have. So, let's say let's just say they have $200 million in cash available that they could pull in. If I'm their advisor, I say, well, put in maybe 100 million. Make sure you're there, but put it so that you're the head of this controlling group and you have a wealthy benefactor. And I think they mentioned, was George Moss is the one they talked about, who's from Miami, Cuban connection, which helps with A-Rod. So he said, I have no interest in that. Everybody wants to buy a team at some point. That's like something to put in your portfolio. So I would just keep an eye on this, see how it develops out in the future, because it's going to get really interesting. I think the Mets and where they actually come to a selling point at could be good, and where they're going. So Jeter's laid the groundwork in Miami of what to do or what not to do. I personally think it could have been a better fit in Miami for J-Lo and A-Rod and the Cuban mafia down there. But it could be interesting. So that's all I got. Make sure you take a look at the NFL draft this week. I'll put that stuff out there.
What's your take on Gronk coming back?
It's what do you mean by take? Like what do you
Are you surprised he's coming back, or I don't know. I think it's crazy that he's coming back.
I mean, he's a WWE champion right now. So someone pointed out, I think Mina Kimes yesterday. No, not Mina Kimes. Katie Nolan was a little upset. She said that whoever tackles him first in a game is going to become the next WWE champion because he took down the champ. I don't know. If you're Gronk, it's an easy $10 million, right?
Yeah, I guess.
It's $10 million. It's $10 million on your contract in the state that has no state income tax.
Mm-mm.
And coming from Massachusetts, which I don't know what the state income tax is in Massachusetts, but I'm assuming kind of high. And I don't know where Gronk lives, but I'm sure Gronk could buy a house in Florida and make that his state of residence. So there's a lot of benefits to this that people aren't fully talking about. I think it's great. I'm not a Buccaneers fan. I'll support the Buccaneers, but my rule is I support the teams that paid me, and that wasn't the Bucks. So I don't know. I think it is. There's a term that comes up in finance called hedging your bets. I think this is an opportunity for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers to fully hedge their investment in Tom Brady. And at a time when teams want security blankets and want surefire bets to know what they're getting, you don't know how Brady will respond to O.J. Howard and Cameron Brate, the two tight ends who are there. He likes throwing to tight ends. You need a surefire target. O.J. Howard's a Pro Bowl caliber tight end that they have, and now you have three. So there's a lot of versatility that can come with it. I personally feel that it puts the Buccaneers in contention for a Super Bowl. And it's a Super Bowl that's going to be played in Tampa, too. So if that's the case, Tom Brady might as well just buy Derek Jeter's house that he's renting from him right now and just make that his permanent residence. But because no, it's all about winning the Super Bowl. That's what they're trying to do. So, but yeah, that's my hot take for the day. But yeah, check out the draft. I think it's interesting. As if you don't have a favorite team, or if you're like me and support the Bears and we don't have a first round draft pick, take a look at it from a sport manager's perspective. There's an article that was on ESPN, I think April 17th, that talks about the logistics of the draft and how everything is going to work on the backside. Take a look and read that, and think about how do you piece all this together. I think it'd be really cool if they did it. They could have a really neat product. The NFL won't do it this way, but think about it as you and your friends doing a fantasy draft. That's kind of what the NFL is doing, with an environment where you're there and you just have people hanging out, and it's still serious, but you could have a really cool environment. Like I want to see the chat screen that teams are going to be talking to each other on the side. Like I just want to see the GM of some team just talking crap to another GM. Like, yeah, bro, we got your guy, up yours. Like that would be hilarious to me. So I think that would be fun, but that's just me wanting a cool product. But I don't know, take a look at it and see, maybe how soon until somebody gets hacked or what's there. But you guys are using the similar platform that they'll be using right now. They're using Microsoft Teams to run their draft and make it all work. They said something in the article where they sent 58 video cameras out to top prospects' houses, so they have cameras set up with them and they can do live, cut-ins and check in with them. So that's all there. If you're an agent, this has to be a crazy time because you can't fully celebrate with all your family, right? Like you can't have a whole party at your house and have 40 people over, or you can't have it in a club and everything else. So it gets really interesting to see how it goes. So
I have a question. On Moodle, it says next week we're meeting Wednesday the 28th, but the 28th is Tuesday. Are we doing Wednesday still or Tuesday because of exams?
exams don't start until like May 1st or 2nd, right? Yeah, we're still. That's my bad. I just probably put the wrong date in. When I did that, it was, holy cow, let's put everything online really quick. So I might have made a mistake with the date.
So it's still Wednesday.
It's still Wednesday.
Okay.
Still Wednesday next week. Anything else pop up for you guys that you want to talk about of interest? Now we have a big discussion. We're all here. Nobody wants to talk. Anything catch your eye in society, finance-wise? anybody's pets doing anything cool you want to talk about?
I have 2 Fosters.
You have 2 Fosters. Oh, how old?
Like 6